Eep.
Oh my god, I'm so scared. Ah! I haven't streamed in so long. I have not been this scared in like ever. Ah! I've been freaking out for like 2 hours. Ah! I miss you guys too. Hi. Hi everyone. I'm so scared. I'm so fucking scared right now. Hi chat. Hi. I don't even know how many subbies have gone on, but it feels like I've just been hearing Ebai for the past maybe hour and a half. I'm so scared. I will get to all of the subbies when I can, but here we are. I'm not showing my face yet because I'm scared. I'm really scared. Oh god, but we're here. I'm finally back after 2 months of my hiatus, and I have a bunch of new stuff to show you, as you can see. Hello everyone, I've been reading chat. Really scaredly, but I've been reading chat. Hello kitties! Oh god. How many times have I debuted? This is my third debut? No, I think. I'm so scared. It gets worse every time. Hello, I miss you guys so much. I miss you guys so much. I've done so much while I was gone. I'm literally on the other side of the planet. Country? Country. America, rah! I literally moved. I moved. And now I have all this stuff to show you. Especially the new model. America, rock! Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay. Before this, like an hour before, I was eating pizza on my balcony. A stale 3-day-old pizza that I microwaved. And I was thinking to myself, God, I'm so nervous. I'm so fucking nervous. I started the stream though, that's a big step. Thank you for all the subbies. Thank you. It's been a long time. You guys have been saving those up, huh? Also, welcome in new people, by the way. If you're new here, I know I see all the oldies, but I see some new people too. I don't know how many people are in stream right now. I'm not gonna look. I am too scared. I do not want to see. Evil. No, don't tell me, Chad. Dying. I'm fine. I'm not nervous. I'm scared. Can you hold my hand, chat? So I can show off all the new stuff that I have. Can we have a bite of your stale pizza? I couldn't even bite through it at some point. It was so rock solid that the pizza was not edible. I had to throw it away. I'm holding your hand, chat. I'm holding it. Hold. Okay. Okay. Oh my gosh, why you there's so many subbies, jeez. And biddies. I think you broke my bot, by the way. Am I supposed to be reading them? I think you broke it. Rest in peace, little shrine fox. Lasted maybe like a minute into the stream. I miss you guys. I miss you guys so much. I miss you guys so much. Also, we have like 7 new mods now, so no fooling around in my chat. Pet the mods. I have so many helpers now. And yeah, okay, I'm coming down a little bit. Let me take a sip of my coconut water. Ah, yeah, no tomfoolery, no stinkiness. Ooh, good luck to all your new mods, my new slaves, mods, slaves, same thing. Alright, okay. I'm not gonna show off the model yet, but I am gonna say, check out this new overlay that I have. I have new overlays for most of my things. I do everything absolutely last minute for my debuts, so some things are finished, but most of it's finished. Most of it. I spent all of yesterday morning till night setting up for debut because I'm a dum-dum and I forgot that debuts take time and effort. So I saved everything until last minute. I woke up and my eyes were like red. Just like me, Feria. But we're here. The debut is finally here after 2 months of being gone. That's the most I've ever been gone for streaming. I'm back. I'm full-time streamer now. I'm gonna be streaming day, night, 24/7, sleeping on stream. Maybe not sleeping on stream, but I'm gonna be streaming way more. I missed you guys. I missed all of you. I miss you guys so much. By the way, this stream is gonna be uploaded on YouTube and probably edited. So if you wanna say hi to YouTube chat, you say hi. Hi YouTube. You're going down in history forever and ever and ever. Hi YouTube! Lord, the chat can't even keep up. Oh my god. Yeah, my sound alerts do work. I decided to keep them on. Oh my god, Jesus, there's a lot of you guys. god, so many cuties. Hello everyone. Hi. Now YouTube sees you forever. Now kiss.
Nice car.
Oh, thank you so much. You know, now that I said the sound alerts are on, I kind of regret that. Oh my god. Wait, what is that? Is that a super chat on Twitch? What the heck?
He's pulling his cock out!
No! Okay, maybe I should turn this off. Wait, I'm gonna turn off sound alerts, alright? Alright guys, behave. Behave, I gave you a chance. Okay, sound alerts are off. Thank you so much, Nowhere, for the $6 donut. It's like a super chat. I've been gone for 2 months, and then all of a sudden Twitch is like YouTube. Crazy, crazy. I will say thank you for all the donos and subbies and gifted subbies and biddies later when I can, which will probably take like 3 hours. But alright, okay. Let me give some credits out. If you look at my panels, I have new panels, which is basically under the stream. And if you scroll all the way down, I have credits. So everything that's new, basically, almost everything is in the credits and panels.
Welcome back.
Oh my god.
Foxy.
The donos read.
Communicating with you in the future for the time being. How long has
I'm silencing you, sorry. I'm gonna turn like messages and all that back on once I'm done with this, and we have some chatty time. God, this is so cool! Super chats! The power of money. The power of money, chat. Alright. I have some commands for some of my artists, the main artists, which are my new VTuber model parents, and the studio that they came from, and also my overlay artist Sigma. So all of this overlay was made by Sigma, and he's really pog, and he's like my little basement slave that makes me overlays, and I love it. Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna try to not be scared by chat and the commotion of subbies and biddies. But yes. These overlays are made by Sigma. Oh my gosh. Yes, I love Sigma. Sigma's like the best overlay artist ever. I will never have a new one. Hopefully. No. You know what? I'm sticking to that. Never having a new one. Unless Sigma like escapes my basement somehow. But they're really pretty, and I like them so much. I also have a new version of Little Shrine Fox in the corner. He's supposed to be speaking, but I think he's a little camera shy because there's too many of you guys here, so you kind of broke him. But he speaks, I promise. Whenever he wants to. Can we pet it? Yes. Yes, you may pet him. Shall I show off the model now? Oh gosh. This is a complete new model. I don't know how long I've had my old model made by Kiru, but finally got a new one for new purposes, new content, new stuff. A year. I've been streaming for 10 years. I'm old, chat. Old. I started streaming during COVID. That's when all the VTubers came out of their sewers. Started streaming. How much money was it? I actually don't know exactly, but if you go look at their website, you'll see how much their models are usually. I would say under 2K. Under 2K. I suppose I should not be a ear VTuber, but also look at my ears. Fluffy. I have maximum fluff on these. Oh. Thank you for the subbies again, by the way. Okay. I'm. Oh god, I'm so nervous. What the fuck? Professional streamer. Sorry. So this is just a new model face. This is a face you'll be seeing for at least a while. God, chat's moving so fast. It's like lagging me out. Oh lord. But yes, you'll be seeing this face and also this little face here. You sleepy shrine fox. Yeah, he's just gonna be chilling and sleeping here. Okay, I'll zoom out. But new design? I haven't had a new design in, well, 2 years, ever since I started streaming, and I wanted to change it up since I wanted to do more gamer ASMR content. And I thought this would fit me a little more. Nice phone. Yeah, I can look at chat on my phone. I mean, I have chat right here, but still. Yeah. I got all my futuristic stuff. All my stuff is holograms. I'm a little gamer. Slow mode. Maybe I'll do slow mode when I'm like reading chats, but for now, I'm just gonna let you guys destroy my chat right now. Booba! Is that all you guys want? Is that what you're looking forward to, my booba? Not these eyes, not this face. Here, I should show off my toggles. You have to wait for the booba, okay? These are my normal eyes. Yes, they do dilate. Wow. Who said feet? Oh. I forgot this is my chat that I'm talking to, but I have a few face expressions. I got my teary eyes. This is gonna be like me basically 70% of the time, because this is how I feel on stream, with the unconditional love that you guys give me, and also bullying, but you know. Any horror game ever? I also have this one. This one is I'm scared. I'm also disappointed. I'm scared and disappointed. This is when I look at the feet comments in my chat. I can also mix them. I'm scared and teary. I hope you guys like the new model face though. I honestly, the one thing I want in a model is for it to match me and how I am, and also look cute AF. Shma. Also, I know you guys are gonna like this one. I'm gonna be using this expression a lot for something that's gonna be coming up soon. Which may or may not be the... I don't want to say it. NSFW Yandere ASMR roleplay video. Yeah. I promised I would do that from the Donathon, so it's gonna be coming out on the 8th. The 8th. Uh, yeah. That's gonna be a fun time. That's gonna be a lovely time. And I also have my regular eyes, my boog eyes without the tears. You guys have to wait 1 week. 1 week. Can you do that, chat? You degenerates. That sounds good. Well, I guess it's gonna be something that I don't know if I can upload it on YouTube. You know what? I think I can, but it'll be demonetized for sure. But I'll be doing way more ASMR content, and I want to make lots of ASMR YouTube videos and streams. So it's like a segue into it. And NSFW ASMR. Yes, yes, I will be doing that for Patreon soon. Which is why... Here, I'll take you guys... I'll take you guys here to show off some of my other model features. This is gonna be the ASMR room. My tail's so fat. Okay. Here's your booba, chat. Don't stare. Don't stare. That's rude. You know where my eyes are? Just stop. Twitch is gonna ban me. And be respectful. Respectful. Kind. Eyes up here. Okay. So this is the new ASMR room. And I also have some fan art in the background from people that did fan art for me, and I cried every time someone sent me fan art for my debut. It's just so sweet. I didn't even get to message all of them because I was working like all day yesterday and all day this morning. So I was just trying to get it in here. But I love this. You know what? I love you guys. But yeah, this is the ASMR room. This is where I'll be doing all my ASMR stuff. Licking microphone. Engulfing microphone. Let me show off some of the toggles. So, with my new model, oh my god, if you made fan art for me and you're in chat right now, thank you. It's so cute. I love all of them so much. They're so cute and cool. But yes, this is my ASMR mic. And you know what I'm gonna be doing with this ASMR mic? I'm putting my hands on it. I'm gonna put my hands on it. So I have a bunch of new toggles that I'll be using for ASMR specifically on stream and also YouTube videos. Grippers. I got my grippers. Hands. This is what it looks like. Uppers. You can see a little bit more of my model. Don't look at that part yet. That's a special part. Don't look at it yet. I also have brush toggle, so I can have one hand on your ear and the other one using a brush on your ear. It's gonna be really fun. ASMR streams are always fun and like a chill break time for me. And I also have two brushes in case I wanna just really clean your dirty ears out. I really like it. I'm so happy I got these ASMR toggles. These will be so useful. Also, I'm still nervous, so if I stutter, yeah. Yes, my model rigor and artists are like so good. So I was surprised. I didn't even I had expectations, but it went over. It was over. If you do exclamation parents in chat, you'll see both of their links and the studio that I got my model from. Really good, really, like fast and good artist. But yeah, this is what the ASMR room will be used for. Oh, I forgot one of the most important parts about my face. I have, uh, I have tongue. So I'll be able to do the lickies. I was thinking about turning on my ASMR mic for debut, but that's for later. You guys have to wait. Nah. The ASMR came fast. No ASMR, not right now. Wait. I'll probably do I'll do an ASMR stream this week. 100%. I'm gonna be streaming today, tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day. What's my schedule, you may ask? I don't know. My schedule will be 24/7. I don't have a schedule yet because I want to see how the stream times are, because right now I'm PDT time zone, and I'll be streaming basically like an hour before right now. Your speaking voice is basically ASMR. That's why I do ASMR. I'm like, what the hell? I can be so good at this. That's why I'm gonna be doing it. But yeah, I'm gonna be streaming today, tomorrow, and basically in the morning, PDT time, maybe like an hour before this. Half an hour before this time. It'll be like 12 or 11 my time. Also, I see a lot of people coming back in chat. I miss you guys too. I miss you. I miss all the people that came to my streams before, and also the new people. Hello, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. I'm excited to do all the new stuffs. Am I? So many subs. God, you guys have been subbing for like I don't know how long. God damn, thank you. I'll be able to read all the subbies after. Right, but let me go back here so I can show off the model a little more. By the way, I ordered a graphics card, like the best graphics card in the market, 2 times, and it got refunded 2 times. So whenever I get it, stream quality will be better. It's 4090. I think it's the 4090. Is that the best one? It is the best. It is the best. But apparently we're having a shortage in fucking graphics cards. So I'll get it eventually. One day, please. But after I get that, my PC is gonna be set. No more laggy. Hopefully. I have 2 ultra wide monitors and 1 other big monitor. So I have like my setup right now is beefy. It's beefy. It's my perfect setup. I don't want to change it ever. Using 2 490s, 4090s is a big flex. I don't know what my one is. Actually, if you type PC, exclamation point PC in chat, you'll see my specs. I'm not a PC person. Also, thank you so much for the raid if you raided. Thank you. I'm kind of semi looking at chats. I'm reading in my head. Alright, let me show off a little bit of the module. Of course, we have little Fox here. He's sleepy. He's staying here. He's asleep. I should just have a beefy PC. Beefy. For all my physics. They got a little... For my physics. My hair physics. I got a lot of hair. All that. Chat, calm down, please. Please. I got some upgrades to my model. Some nice upgrades. Like tummy. Tummy. It's not see-through. There's a dress under here. But you can see a little bit of my tummy. Oh my gosh! Wait. Did I credit my designer in my panels? I did, right? Surely Foxy credited her designer for her literally the whole model design. Hopefully. I love the new model. I'm so happy you guys like my new model. It's like a little scary to have a new model sometimes. If everyone likes it, I know. Oh my god. I'm like, my PC's about to blow up right now. Let me see if I credited my designer. I didn't. I didn't credit my designer. Okay. Let me get their Twitter and I'm gonna spam it in chat, alright? Because my design, I did not design this outfit. I don't have the brain capacity for that. Professional streamer. Alright, there we go. I have Link. Jason made my design all by himself. Their shell. And it's really cool. I love it. Look at it. It's so cute. It's so cute. Full-time streamer. Professional streamer. Yes. Ta-da. Some upgrades, people. I have some packages. And look, my little boots. I got heels on. I can't see the heels, but they're heels. So now you can't say I'm short because I'm like maybe like 5'5" right now instead of 5'3", okay? So correct, shorties. But yes, I absolutely love the new model. It's so cute. It's so cute. Wow. I have so many tacos too. Hourglass, thank you. I've been working out. Over my hiatus, I've been lifting weights. I've been bench pressing. Push-ups. Planks. I'm glad you guys like the model. My favorite parts is like here, not the boba, but the sleeves and my little like, what is this called? Not a scarf. It's the sweater. The sweater is what I like the most. Alright, let me show off some more of the toggles. The bells! I got bells! Fun fact, I've always wanted to have bells on my model. Like, forever. Ever since I started streaming, I always wanted to have golden bells somewhere on my model. And now I do. After 2 years. I don't have one around my neck, but maybe in the future. And maybe every time I move it, it'll jingle. And then everyone will be so annoyed by my jingle jingle. Jingle jingle jingle. Yippee! Alright, I have this phone toggle here. Pretty cool. This is what I'm gonna use when I need to look at chat. But I'm not on my just chatting screen. Really cute. Really cute. I can scroll with my thumb. My thumb actually scrolls if you look close. I can move my fingers. Crazy. I know. New VTuber technology is out of this world. Hologram phone! Hologram phone! I'm actually Spider-Man from 2099. I'm future. I'm future, Foxy. Fun fact, my raid sound alert is actually Spider-Man 2099, like, theme sound. I don't know how it hasn't played yet, but when my bot isn't broken, you'll hear it. That was a really poor way of saying it. Okay. By the way, if you're new to the stream, welcome. Hello. I never actually introduced myself. I'm Foxy. Hi. AK FoxPlushy. Hello. That's me. This is my new design. And if you're old, you know how it is. Scuff, fox, comfy. It's how it's always been. Okay. So we have the phone toggle, but probably my favorite toggle is this. Look. You might think, oh, that's just an ordinary keyboard. Think again. I can move my hand. I'm doing this in real time. Look at my gamering. I'm gamering. I don't even know. My rigger literally surprised me with this. I was like, whoa, what the? You can have on my mouse? Gamer model. And also cool, when I'm playing all my gamer stuff, if I press the keys, okay, you know what? It should press, but it's not working right now because it doesn't want to. Because of course it doesn't want to because I'm debuting and it wouldn't work when I'm debuting, no right? But the keys usually do their thing and they press. Usually I probably messed something up. This is a scuff fire this stream. There's always a scuff fire. But the mouse works and the keys work. They're supposed to work. They do work. They did work. But yeah, I'm gonna be using this when I'm doing my natural stream gaming. Playing Overwatch. Maybe League of Legends. I know. Why would I play League of Legends? I don't know. Maybe full-time streaming is just a little bit of insanity, but I might play League of Legends again. Where's my tail? It's down there. Waggle. My tail wags every time I'm happy. I don't control it, by the way. You can never escape League. Once a League streamer, always a League streamer. It's been calling back to me. It feels like an ex that I Venmo money to every like few months. I literally went back and I bought like 5 skins in League of Legends. I don't play it. But yep. I'll be using this keyboard for all the gamering that I'll be doing. I'm glad to be back, chat. I'm glad to be back and show you all the cool stuff. Cool mouse. Alright. Those and my ASMR hand toggles are all of my arm toggles. My arms. But you know what? I always add stuff to my models from donos and all that, and you guys pampering me, and then I use it for model stuff. So in the future, if you guys have any suggestions, I probably will get new model things. Sweater toggle. Shirt toggle. Shirt toggle? Question mark? uh, I don't know, maybe for Patreon. Shout out to my Patreon. I got cool stuff on my Patreon. This month, if I get my VR working, we'll probably be doing a VR chat movie night for patrons. Last time that was crazy. It was like a frat party basically. What kind of cool stuff? We got NSSW. We got movie nights. We got me chatting in Discord and showing the mac and cheese that I make sometimes. That's pretty cool. We got lovely community members, and then I show my new stuff. New stuff like sketches. Cheese. You cannot believe the mac and cheese that I make. You'd be wowed. Thank you again for the subbies, by the way. I'll be going through all the subbies later. Once I'm done showing up the model. One more toggle. Glasses. Because I'm blind. My eyes were burning this morning. Because my monitors are so bright. Okay, don't nudge me. I do not look like a nerd. Grandma! Ay! Eh! Grandma would not look like this. I'm in my prime time chat right now. But yeah, cute glasses. I'll wear sometimes. Whenever I want. Nerd. Let's see, do I have anything else? Oh yeah! Oh, you guys are gonna like this one. I forgot one toggle. One important toggle. I have a 2.0 Foxy? That was my last model. I've had a total of 3 models now. Yeah, 3 main ones. Alright. Are you guys ready for this toggle? It's not the season for this toggle. It's quite literally the opposite, but I got my winter toggle. Ta-da! Ta-da! I saw that sound alert, by the way. I saw that. I saw what you tried to do. Winter! I got my winter toggle. This one matches the overlays so well. Both of them do, but this one more. This one's a flashbang of my models. Ta-da! Cold flash! Cold! Was that the Spider-Man 2009? Oh my god, it was a raid sound! I was like, no way I just heard the music like do the Spider-Man sound. That's my raid. Oh, thank you for the raid. Thank you so much. I'll be thanking after showing off model. Shiny Foxy. It's my winter form. Ta-da! It's really cute. Even the Spider. Even my tail is white. I love it. I love it. This one's really cute. I'm excited for winter time when I get to use this, shed all of my hair, and then grow it back. Maybe I should have like a bald Foxy week. Where I'm just bald because I'm molding my fur. Momentary bald Foxy it's like the awkward transition that you're trying to do before you're pretty. Egg plushie. Some of you guys were saying egg plushie for debut. Egg plushie. No. You don't get egg plushie. No. Maybe later. Egg. I see so many cuties in chat. Hello. Alright. Is that everything for my model right now? I absolutely love the white form. And the ears. Love me. Turn around. Just wait. Just you wait. There's gonna be an era in the future where VTuber models are actually gonna be able to turn around for whatever reason they would need to. And then you're gonna be wowed. And I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna have that toggle. The hip movements. My hips. Can she do a flip? Hey model rigger. Can you like rig me doing a flip? I would literally get like denied so hard. Can you rig me turning around? Just spin your model for the flip. That takes so much effort. So much effort. Alright, let me go back to my meow form. I love this model so much. It's so cute. It's so cute. I appreciate all my other models that I did before as well. It's like the journey, the evolution. I appreciate it all. Also, Jesus, thank you for the biddies and subbies. Alright, let me... I hope this is ready. I'm assuming this is ready. Alright, let's try it. We have a cool stinger for transitions if you didn't see before. Where am I? Oh, there I am. Here's like the regular watching TikToks or YouTube videos screen that I'll be using. Sneaky Fox. I disappeared for a second. But yes. Ta-da! Another overlay. Lovely, lovely overlay done by Sigma, which is in my panels. You can also do overlay artist. Exclamation point overlay artist. Quality is immaculate. Thank you. Thank you. I spent a lot of time not drawing these, but putting them together. A lot of time and money. I love it though. I absolutely love it. And especially Little Shrine Fox. Look how cute. Look at them. They might be like not able to talk because you broke them, but they're really cute. Sigma, don't miss. Sigma! Best overlay artist ever. Go commission him. Or maybe if he doesn't want to do commissions, go follow him on Twitter. And bombard him. Be like, oh my god, you are the best overlay artist ever. Okay? Yeah. Fun fact, there was some overlay stuff that like I was asking for, and Sigma literally sent me a picture of him on the airplane, and I was like, oh, my slave ran away from me. Sigma, how could you? How could you run away if you're listening to this, Sigma? You took an airplane to like Alaska to escape me, man. It's okay, I forgive him. Sigma said bye. I don't have animated art yet. Very soon. But for starting soon screen, I will have this art animated as soon as I can. It is so cute. It's so pretty. Kiyoshi made it for me and I absolutely love it. Oh. I will be posting her art on Twitter and reposting it. Yes. Oh, also, I forgot to do this. Okay. Foxy's return stream. I like this meme. I forgot to put it on because I literally started stream at the beginning of debut stream. I started it and I ran away. I threw my headphones and I ran away screaming and crying. But yeah, we have this starting soon screen, which will be animated. Also the fan art. Check out the fan art. Super cute. I love it. So sweet. I'm still scared, but I'm less scared now. You guys are super comfy. But continuing on, we have BRB screen. This is more art of my new model, which Hopefully it will be animated eventually. Eventually. Oh yeah, and the DVD logo! I forgot! It's for you guys! The DVD logo. I know you guys missed it. Oh! That did not hit the corner. That did not hit the corner, chat. It bounced. It bounced. It bounced! I saw it. It was like a half of a millimeter bounce. Oh? Nah. Nah. The return of DVD. Who made the art? I will be posting on Twitter, but it was Jenny. I don't have everyone in my panels credited. I'm so sorry, but it will be on Twitter very soon, and I'll be reposting it. Mostly all today, if Jenny posts it.
Did I hear egg plushie week?
I heard that. No egg plushie. Will it hit the corner? Time to spend 30 minutes of my debut staring at a DVD logo. And also Pog overlays made my Sigma, yes. Some of the overlay parts will still need to get finished. Like the Overwatch and League of Legends custom overlay is still in the works. So that'll be later. That'll be later. Wow, you know the alerts are so backed up. Like really backed up. Okay, I'm taking this away from you guys. Alright, stream isn't ending. It's not ending. Don't worry, it's not ending. But look, I have some more art for the ending screen and patrons. Did I update it? No, but I swear I've been working really hard, okay? I will get to it. No, it's not ending! No, please! It's not ending. It's not ending, okay? It's not ending. Look at the cute art though. Just pretend it's not ending, okay? But look. Look, it's me kissing you guys. Mwah. Mwah. You had me going there. Everyone lurking in the stream right now without any sound. Oh, damn. She's ending stream. I guess I gotta go. Mwah. Mwah. Kiss. But yeah, super cute. I'll be updating this, I swear. Please. Forgive me for not updating it for debut stream. I was working harder, I promise. I promise. I think that was all the screens. Yeah. League and Overwatch custom overlays will be soon. But not yet. I hope my mic isn't like really bad. Was this last minute? No. I would never rush a debut. I would never put anything to last minute. Never. Your mic is fine? Alright, okay, good. This will be going on YouTube, so the scuffiness will just be like a memory. Oh! Speaking of scuffiness. Surely. Alright, but I want to show off a little bit more of this room. This room that I commissioned should be in my panels, but it's probably not. Will I add it? Yes. I will. I was doing my credits and panel stuff, and I was like, I could barely keep my eyes open, so I was like... But yeah, I got a pretty new room. It is animated. You can see like the neon lights and stuff in the background. Eventually. Embrace the scuff. Welcome to the FoxPlushy stream. Scuff, most of the time. Will I ever have an introduction for myself besides, hi, I'm Foxy, the comfy fox? Probably not. It's okay. At least I'm not like, hi, I'm FoxPlushy, the mythical fox demon that eats souls and comes from the Imperial castle from Japan in the 19... No. In the 2000... No. In BC. I'm a magical fox girl, and I eat people, and I eat their body parts. I actually did have lore that was kind of like that, to be honest. But you know what? I think it's better if FoxPlushy is FoxPlushy. And if I ever want to share my past, I will. If I wanna. I killed people. I'm kidding. YouTube, please don't demonetize me. That was a joke. This will be on YouTube, so. I miss you guys too if you're coming into chat. I miss you. I miss you. Alright. This will be more. I think we're done showing off the model, so we can relax now, chat. Chillax and chat. And I'll be reading chat more now. I cannot commit to war crimes. I don't like these limitations. Hello chat, hello, I miss you guys. It's been a very long time. It feels like I've been gone for like a year. I've not streamed in forever. Fossy's lore is scuffed magical fox girl, that's who I am. Where did I come from? What did I do before? Does it matter? No. If I'm a cute fox girl right now, does it matter what war crimes I did before? No. As long as I'm cute and I wag my little tail and then everyone's all happy. It does not matter. It feels like you've been gone for a long time. It also feels like it was just yesterday you were playing Overwatch with the rest of the gang. I can't wait to play more Overwatch. I know Mercy's getting a new skin. I'm excited. Oh, you know what? Let me show something off really quick. Lovers! Lovers! Oh my god, we have new emotes, I forgot to say. We have like 5, 6, 7? We have quite a few new emotes with my new design. For subbies and one for followers. One follower emote. Which is the lovers. But yeah, we have that, and I'm gonna I'm gonna show off my design. Was I prepared? No. Don't worry. This is a scuff part of the stream. Flashbang incoming. Ta-da! It's my design. There we go. This was made by Jason. This was like the base of what my model came from. I know, it is so good. I love it. It has all my like accessories. I even have a bag. Oh! You guys said turn around. Bam. Turned around. And my side view. I have a back window. I do have a back window. If someone wanted to give me a back massage, easy. Easy access. I could hide a bag of popcorn in my sweater if I wanted to. Who knows what I have back there? Going to the movie theaters? You need to bring a drink. I'll do it for free. I know you will, Dijon. It's in your name. Thank you so much for the raid. Thank you, Grace. Hello. I will be reading raids, donos, bits, subbies from now on. Yes. Before I was talking, but now I will be more attentive to chat. Hello, Bo. Thank you so much for the raid. It's my debut time. Hello. Happy debut. Thank you. I'm showing off my design right now. But yes, this will be used if I ever need to get a 3D model done. I have it now. I've gotten denied from 3D modelers like quite a lot. Because I was like, can you 3D model me? And they're like, do you have this ref sheet? And I was like, no. No. Absolutely denied. They denied the FoxPlushy. Well, yeah, this is pretty cool. I'll also show off the emotes. Professional, professional. Ta-da! Emotes. Super cute. I like them. Especially the thigh one, that's probably my favorite. Future VR content? Yes. Yes. Nice, nice! Sub today to FoxPlushy. Get your own thigh emote. I was absolutely spamming these emotes, especially the pain and the fire one. And the cry one, because I wanted to cry so bad before my debut. I was so scared. I was like, I feel like I'm gonna pass out. I was lightheaded from being so scared about debut. I was dying. I was crying. I was dying. I was eating my stale 3-day-old pizza on my balcony, like. I like this one. You like the spy one? Lookers. I want to call that one Lookers now. Actually, that sounds like something else. Maybe I won't do that. Brave Foxy. I saved this for this moment. I'll be giving more later. I'm so glad you're back, Foxy. Sure missed your streams. Hey, Alexander. Thank you for the 105 BDs. I'm glad to be back. I missed you guys a lot. How did you guys survive without me? How'd you do it, hmm? I feel so bad. Your redesign's so cute. Thank you, let's go. Thank you for the sub for 5 months. I'll be reading all of them now. Yes. Get your sub read by FoxPlushy here. Miss you every day. We didn't. Oh, my poor chats. My poor chats. I wish my little shine fox would work, but I think he's broken. Yippee! Yippee! Oh my god! Cleric! Thank you for the 10,000 biddies! It wasn't easy, but you're back now. That's what matters. Thank you! Thank you, Cleric! Yes. New sub badges? No, those are same sub badges. But I thought they didn't need to change. But you know what? I might add newer sub badges for older subbies that has my headphones on it. I think that'd be cool. Cause some of you guys are getting like way past my sub badges, and I'm like, I can't keep up with this. Eventually, I'm gonna have to have like an 8-year badge. Thank you, Vera. Thank you for the tier 3, Vera. Thank you for 16 months. So good to see you again, Foxy. All the new stuff is amazing. You did great, and I'm sure you'll keep doing even better and better. Welcome back. Thank you. Thank you, Angie. Thank you for the 13 months. Congrats on your 3.0 debut, Foxy. Miss you so much. Your new model is super cute. And cool. I like new model a lot. Who did the art and rigging? Yeah, if you do exclamation point parents, you'll see who did art and rigging. It was a studio that had artists and riggers. Really talented. I absolutely love the art. I want to commission my art mama because her art is so pretty. It's so damn pretty. Let's go back here. I want to show off all the overlays properly because they're also pretty. I came to try emotes because no, they work in servers. Follow also cool VTuber. Thank you officially. Thank you so much. This BGM kind of slaps. I chose the music for this stream 1 minute before the stream started. I was like, I meant to start the stream 5 minutes before like actual stream time, but I was, oh my god, I was so scared. It was like, never change, Foxy. Hey, but you know what? It all works out in the end. Never worry about life because it all works out in the end. Copyright free? Probably not, but don't worry, it won't show up in the VOD, so. Yay! You guys get to enjoy this music. YouTube doesn't. I'm so sorry, YouTube people. If you're watching this right now, you're probably listening to something different, but let's just pretend that it's the same thing. And they're both good. What was I was gonna say, oh yeah, TikTok. So TikTok. I'm gonna be posting way more on TikTok. I've already posted 2 new videos with the model, my new model, and I'll be posting much more. I've been spending a lot of time making TikToks, so I'll be hopefully plaguing TikTok For You page once again with my 1.2 million followers. Been a while. It has been a while. I refuse to download TikTok. Not even for my TikToks. Not even for my TikToks. That's a lot. Yeah, I have a lot of TikTok followers, and that's kind of how my Twitch started. So I'm like, I'm going back to my old ways. Posting TikToks, making funny content, but full time, also streaming more, also doing ASMR content. I'm gonna be hamming it out. Hamming. I remember the early TikTok years. My oldest mods, Darren and Simple, they definitely remember the TikTok years. It was scary. It was a time where everyone was indoors in COVID and it was unhinged. No one was laid. No one had any socialization skills. It was a scary time, but we made it. Alexander, thank you for the 101 videos. Here's some more, but I'm loving the model. I hope to join your Patreon soon. Thank you. I hope you join that too. I love my patrons. I hope to do more stuff for Patreon now that I'm like VTubing full time. YouTube shorts, yes. YouTube shorts, TikToks, and Insta reels. I'm gonna be posting on all of those. I'll let you know I touched my first human during COVID. I don't know how to even respond to that. Your model's so cute. Yeah, thank you. What? Chat, you guys have the same reactions as me. I'm like, interesting. Thank you for that knowledge, Salty. Thank you. What a media presence. I'm on all the social medias. I'm on YouTube, TikTok, Insta. Soon, Billy. I don't know. It's that. It's the Japanese social media network. And Twitch, obviously. Billy, I'm gonna be on Bill. I'm gonna be on everywhere. Everywhere. Billy. Yeah, I think it's Billy actually. Maybe it's not Billy. Can I pet the little fox? Yes. Depends on which one you want to pet. This one or the one over there that's like staring into your soul. This one's pretty cute. He like sits in my hood like a scarf. Sleepy. Both is good. What time is it? Oh, okay. Whenever I end stream. Oh shit. Hey, Lost Click! Thank you for gifting 18 subbies. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Cleric being Sugar Fox. Thank you. Thank you. I didn't even the subbies, biddies, and donos did not cross my mind today. Or yesterday, or like the past forever. I did not even think about like the amount that would happen today. Thank you. Thank you for your subbies. I think it's gonna go through all the subs. So am I. Am I. Am I. Oh my model rigger. She said good debut. Much love. Much love, much love. Hold my hoops, I'm gonna break high scores. Okay, we have Lost Cleric for top gifter, King Lo-Fi at 25, and Ella for 10 gifted subs. I need to go back and read all the subbies. Oh boy. Oh boy. The fox is back, I'm back! I am back! Hello! By the way, it made me so happy that you guys are like spamming chat and seeing all of you guys in chat when I first started stream today for debut. I mean, I was still absolutely terrified, but I'm super happy that you guys are here. I'm back, I'm back. Hello new people and my old subbies. My old chatters. Hello womb. I was asleep so I couldn't do it earlier. It's okay, Ghoul, I forgive you. Not. Bessie, thank you for the 19-month subby and the welcome back. Alright, let me... How am I gonna read all these subbies? Cause I wanna go through the old subs. Well, that's not gonna work. There's... Can we see a full model? Yes. Yeesh. I'll stand here. How am I gonna see all these old subbies? Subbies! Step. This is the ASMR gaming model. This is a model that doesn't go outside ever. I never see daylight. That's why I'm so pale. Mine. You're so pretty. Thank you, Jeremy. Otaku streamer. Alright, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna read donos first. Because we don't have that many donos. Someone quick grab a job. Oh! I'm gonna pretend I didn't read that. No jar, please. Headhunter, thank you for giving us a subby, and Claire, thank you for giving us a subby as well. Oh, I need to drink water. I forgot. I've been living off copium. No chat, no jar. Okay, I'm getting closer again. I don't. You guys are just sus. Hey, model rigger mama, can you make a toggle where I'm like in a jar? Not for any reason specifically. It's just, you know, something I thought of. Patreon only. Gross, Dad. Even my mods are questioning me. Please no. I have 11 mods now, by the way. Both in Discord and in Twitch chat now, so stacked. Absolutely stacked with these cuties. Thank you for the stories, thank you! Rubber Riff, thank you for the 9 months, thank you! Hiccup. How do I read super chat Twitch donos? I wish it stayed there forever. I know. I forgot. Oh! Oh shit. Oh shit, wait, Foxy, say something. Thank you for the raid! I don't even know who raided! All my notifications are gone. Oh, they're gone. They're gone forever. Oh shit. Wait, chat raided! Thank you so much for the raid! Oh my gosh! Hi, welcome to my debut! Hi! Wait, I need to see who read. Nano-sama, thank you so much for the raid! Oh my gosh, hi! Hello! Hi! Oh my god, that's a lot of people. Hello! Thank you, that's so sweet of you! Welcome all new people. I just got done showing off my model, but I guess I could show it off a little more. Hello! Hi! Thank you. Can we get a shout out for Nero-sama, please, mods? Please. Thank you. I love you. Thank you. The Fox is back. Yes, this is my debut 3.0 debut / comeback stream after quite a while. Thank you. My mods are trying their best. I don't think even 11 mods would be good for this. Oh lord. Hello. Sorry, I'm scared now. Oh god. Shrine Fox said no. My bot is broken now. Oh, there it is. I was just settling down after showing off all my model stuff and chatting with chat. It's good to see you again, Foxy. It's good to see you again. But yes, I've been gone for 2 months and now I'm back. Thank you so much for the raid. Well, I don't. Thank you so much. And all the follows. Thank you. Congrats on 3.0. It's been a long time. Still scuff AF though. You're so cute, no you. Thank you, Nero. Thank you so much. Mwah. Mwah. Let me give kisses. Mwah. This raid is a canon event. Oh my god, I never even thought of that. I made the sound alert for that, the Spider-Man thing. My canon event raid. Flash, oh my god, I'm like so fucking nervous though. I'm more nervous than when I started stream. Mwah. Thank you, Nana. Thank you. Come on, Foxy, introduce yourself. Oh shit! I was literally saying that I don't have an introduction. I never will. Okay. Hello. Hi, I'm FoxPlushy, aka Foxy, country fox streamer. I've been gone for a while, but now I'm back, and I'm gonna be doing ASMR streams, videos, NSFW stuff for ASMR as well. TikToks, lots of TikToks, new content for YouTube, and lots of gaming streams. How is that? Do you like my pitch? let me go into my white form. There we go. Everyone loves the white form. Thank you, Nat, for the 100 videos. Your appearance may have changed, but you're still the most adorable Shrine Fox ever. Look, hey mods, can you put chat in slow mode? Probably should have done that when the raid happened. Wait, I heard that in the background. Thank you. Thank you, Matt. Light form so cute. Thank you. Thank you. I'll show off the whole model now. My chat was making jar jokes earlier, so Nero-sama's chat. I'll give you guys a little look. My chat, calm down. Cute, thank you, 30 seconds. I usually don't do some. Thank you, Lusker, for the gifted sub. The alerts are probably gonna be like an hour late. So soon. I'm belly button. You also have a very calming voice. Thank you. That's why I'm gonna start doing more ASMR. My voice was built for this, apparently. Even I thought my voice when I first started streaming was absolute doo-doo, but apparently now it's okay. Thank you, Chan. Also, thank you for all the follows. I'm so happy to have you guys here. I have to give Nero some love back and raid her back soon. Whenever I see the raid, I'm gonna be streaming. Like, what time is it? Like 2 hours back from now. Usually every day. So hopefully I can catch the stream. It was really built for ASMR. I was born to do this. I was born to eat my microphone. Truly, my destiny. Oh, let's go here. You look so cute, thank you! Thank you, Squid, for the subby too, thank you. We have new emotes for subbies as well for my new model. But, I'll be showing off a little rerun of all my stuff that I have. But this is the ASMR room. This is where all the content's gonna be happening. aka me eating my microphone. Also, ASMR stuff. Nero will be streaming tomorrow at 7 p.m. BST. Hey, what's BST? I've never heard of BST before. Mods, can you write that down, please? And thank you for the info. I appreciate that. Oh, it's UK. It's British time. Oh. -8 UTC. BST British. I didn't know it was a thing. I guess I'm like streaming kind of close to British time. At least better. Before, my stream time was way different from now, so I love your new model. Thank you so much. Thank you. I also like my new model. I think it fits super well. I'm really happy you guys like it. Ah. Really happy. You know, emotes are so cute, but I'm always broke. Don't worry. You don't need a sub. Never. Only if you want to. But yeah, this is the ASMR room. I have some fan art going on in the background from some really cute artists. I'm gonna put my fat tail down. These were made for my debut, so they're really sweet. And I think there's gonna be more fan art happening, so make sure to follow me on my Twitter if you want to see that. Thank you, Shameful Jester, for gifting a subby to Little Cheetah. Thank you. Thank you. We'll probably see those alerts like a long time from now. Why can't I give you headpads? No. Soon though. I don't have any redeems up, but in future streams I'm gonna have a lot more like touchy redeems. Not sus, but head pats and pokes. Who's sleeping in your collar? It's my little fox. Little shine fox. Same one that's over there. And that's like staring into your soul. They're supposed to talk, but you guys broke him, so maybe I can make him talk. Okay, I guess he doesn't wanna. That's fine. That's fine. Sir Kitsuna! Thank you so much for the 5 months, Happy. Thank you. Dinku 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 dinku. Should I just make the alert sound since it's so far back? So cutely animated. Yeah, the little fox in my scarf is gonna be forever sleeping. I don't have a toggle to take him out yet, but after. Best 3.0 models are awesome, even full body. Of course! My first model was actually half body. I didn't have legs. But this one does. Sleepy guy. Alright, let me show off over here. Here's my main screen. This is where I was showing off my emotes, the new ones that I got. I'll be using this screen to watch TikToks with you guys when I'm like lazy and eating mac and cheese or something. Oh, Vita! Thank you for gifting 50 subbies. Thank you, Vita. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. There's sound alerts for these, I promise. It's really backed up. after Nero-sama's raid, you guys kind of like smash that like button. Absolutely demolish that. Thank you. Kaylin, thank you so much for the 7 months. Thank you. Your new model's the cutest. I'm so happy you guys like. I'm so happy. I'm not gonna play model favorites, but I do like this model. It fits. It's so cute. Smash that follow button and subscribe today. Why is every YouTuber British? I don't know. British. H2F, thank you for the 2 months of me. And Crimson for that, the 100 videos tax fluff. Congrats on your best debut. Thank you. This will be going on YouTube, by the way, so sub to my YouTube and stuff like that. What can I say? You push all our buttons. It's only fair we press yours. Thank you, Cleric, for the $5 super dono. Super dono. I don't know how those work, but they're cool. Let me show off my design as well. If you guys want to rewatch this, since Raiders kind of didn't see like the first half of the stream, it'll be on YouTube and on Twitch basically after the stream ends. Where's my stuff? Ta-da! FoxPlushy design. This was designed by Jason. I don't have them credited, but there will be a credit on Twitter. I promise. Super dono, super chat from YouTube. Yeah, I was like, I left for 2 months because I went on a hiatus to move from one part of the United States to the very other side. PDT time now, so I was like, damn, super chat donos and they're taking more money from stream. I mean, I didn't say that. I love you, Twitch. I love you. See you, Master. Thank you for the 7 months. Hey, Foxy. The new motto is looking so adorable. I hope you have a nice, relaxing break. Thank you. I did. I was relaxing, but also really fun, and also really hard. Because I had to move in, and I was scary. My fire alarm literally went off yesterday. And, like, in my whole apartment building. And I went out in my pajamas. It was really hectic. Really, really hectic. Have I seen you on TikTok? Yes. I plagued people's TikToks 2 years ago. A year ago, question mark. During COVID time. And I got like 1.2 million followers on TikTok. And I took a long break. But now I'm back on TikTok, so... That's where you've seen me, Mark. Thank you, Dapper, for the 100 videos. I'm so sorry I can't stay in your stream longer. I have to get some sleep for my graveyard shift tonight. I wanted to keep watching. Good night, Dapper. Thank you for watching. I'm so happy that all of you guys are here. Even Code. Oh my god. Okay, Code is in my stream. Crazy. Hi, Code. Thank you, Big Papa Cringe. Thank you for 6 months, Subby. Hi, Ella. Mwah. My stream, some streamers in chat, the absolute cutest. Alexander, thanks for 102 videos. This is all for stream until next time because my heart's melting and I need to recover. Oh, you should feel. You know, I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow, but after stream, when we go watch the movie in Discord, since we do have a movie night right after debut. So I'm gonna end stream and then we're gonna go to Discord and then watch a movie. But after that, I'm gonna be fucking dead asleep. New avatar, so cute. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. What movie? Neilma. Neilma. It's a movie that came out yesterday, and it's apparently really, really good. So I'm gonna be streaming it myself in the Discord. Dexon, thank you for the 13 months. I still haven't said thank you for like the like 100 subbies that occurred at the beginning of stream. There's so many subbies. Happy to have you back. I'm happy to be back. Also, thank you to my new mods and my old mods for helping me out with everything, especially for this stream. Oh, so many people. Professional. Oh my god, you're back. I love my mods. Woo! My mods and my patrons are the ones that see me like freaking out in the background. I've debuted 3 times now. 3rd time, probably worse than the 1st and 2nd time. I was scared. It does not get better. I don't know who says it gets better. Debuting in Shine, but it does not. I really want to see a movie with you, Smug. What does that mean? It's okay. We're gonna be eating popcorn together. Me and chat and watching the new movie, and we're all gonna cry. We are all gonna cry, trust me. So happy to see you again. I'm happy to be back. By the way, for people that are new to stream and didn't hear me say this earlier, I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow and basically like every single day for a while. I don't have a schedule yet. I just know I'll be streaming around this time in the morning, like 2 hours back from now, and maybe at night as well. We're testing stuff. Hi Sammy, thank you. Thank you for the 100 videos. How are you doing? I'm doing great. I'm doing great. What kind of movie is it? It's animated, but it's really funny, and I'm not gonna spoil, but it's really good. I think like most people will like it. Loves. Thank you for the follows too. I hope to see all of you guys in tomorrow's stream too, if you have time. What will we be doing tomorrow? I don't know, but we'll see. I'm definitely doing an ASMR stream this week though, so if you like that. Can I touch your ear fluff? I'm feeling generous, so one touch. One finger, pinky finger. And not deep, okay? It's my first time doing this, you know, letting chat touch my ears. One finger, one pinky. Wiggle. Pet pet, yours. Thank you, Darkness. Thank you for giving 2 subbies. Thank you. Professional suster, by the way. Yeah, it's gonna be a little sussier, Foxy, lately because I'm gonna be doing NSFW ASMR on the 8th. So NSFW Yandere Roleplay ASMR is gonna be out on the 8th. God, it feels so weird to say that. But yeah, it was a donathon reward, so... On here? No, no, no. It'll be on YouTube or on Patreon, but it'll be free. Probably on YouTube. I don't know if it's bad to post demonetized content on YouTube. I don't know. We'll see. I might get, like, deleted off YouTube. Mark it on your calendar. NSFW ASMR. I'm gonna inhale my mic. I can also, I guess, show off my voice acting. Kind of. Roleplay voice acting. Imagine a voice actor agency listens to my SW ASMR and they're like, yeah. Yeah, we need... That's kind of what Cottontail does. A free Patreon post? It's a donathon reward, so... It'll be free. Yes. Foxy has a future career in VA. I mean, wouldn't be bad. Hey, voice actor company people, if you ever need, like, I don't know, lewd voice acting or just regular voice acting, a fox girl that, like, kinda knows English, yeah, maybe hit me up. Foxy's been studying ASMR. Oh god. Yippee! Speaking of that, yesterday, no, the day before yesterday, I was studying ASMR, NSFW ASMR. So just imagine a fox girl standing in her kitchen, making mac and cheese while listening to NSFW ASMR on her speaker throughout her home. It cringed me out really hard. Really hard. I couldn't do it. I hope when I do this NSFW ASMR, it'll be better. I'm pretty sure I could do better, and it won't be cringy. Use headphones, you DGen? Hey, I'm not renting an apartment, so I can't listen to NSFW ASMR on speaker. Fun fact, I actually live next to my landlord. My landlord is a wall away. So anything I do... Yeah. No shame. It's okay, I'm cute. It makes up for it. Speaker. I don't think anyone could hear. You live next to your landlord? Yeah. My landlord lives in the apartment building, so... I didn't know. But... It's Canada Day today? Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Sweet Canada. We can turn off slow mode, by the way, mods. I think Chad's calmed down a little bit. Chad's good. Chad behave. Thank you, little pasta. Thank you for 6 months of me. Your mom's so freaking cute on a pinch both your cheeks. You know what I should get? I should get a puffing. I should make my cheeks puff out when I puff my cheeks in real life. I should get that. ASMR be Patreon exclusive? No. I'll be having the NSFW one from Donathon. It'll be free, but then all NSFW ASMR after that will be only for patrons. But regular ASMR is gonna be on YouTube and Twitch. I'm even gonna have a rent daddy role on Patreon. It's a joke. it's a joke, but it will have some interesting benefits. Did I have that before? I have what? Yeah. Yeah. It has some good benefits, such as my mods Darren feet pics will be shown if you get that tier. Pay my rent, get Darren's feet pics. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke. Why can't I wink? Fuck. Fuck. I can't wink. I'm gonna pay for Darren's 2 pigs. This is why I have my mods. 2 pigs. Joash, thank you for the 5 months, Sophie. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. By the way, I hope debuts stream so far has just been everything that should be, and I hope you guys are enjoying it. I literally spent all day yesterday morning until night working on my PC for all the stuffs, and then this morning too. So I just wanted this to be less scuffy. You're very quiet. Hey, am I? My voice? Am I quiet, chat? Oh, I'm not quiet. No? No, it's good. Okay, you might just have to turn your Twitch up. Arr. Ow. My PC's at 100 so stream? Ah! I'm sorry. Oh, fun fact, I actually blew out my ears for the first time. I was working on my ASMR mic and I pressed the wrong button, and I pressed the wrong button and it actually blew out my ears. I stood there for a second like, oh, did I just what did I do? Don't touch ASMR mics with headphones on, please. Rib, it's okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. I thought I lost my hearing for a second, but I'm good. I think it was just a shock. I died. I love your Fennec Fox. He's actually a regular little shrine fox, but he does kind of look like a Fennec Fox with his face. He's just cute, that's what he is. I see you. I see you too. He's living on my neck. Rent free. He just sleeps in my neck all day. Really warm. It's like a neck warmer. Ah, go fall asleep here. Sweet boy. Darkness, thank you for 3 months, Subby. You look so cute. What the heck? I love you so much, Foxy. Dropped a Subby for myself before leaving. Thank you, Darkness. Thank you. Here, let me try reading some of the older subs. Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot of subbies. Is he a snow fox or a sand fox? Regular fox, red fox, but white. I guess like spirit foxes are just foxes in general, like their own breed. But I can match him. Ta-da! I just don't have brown foxes because most of them are white. Oh, you know what that reminds me? I didn't say. I've been working on a lot of stuff while on my hiatus for 2 months. So soon, in like a week, we'll be having a big drop for something special, something fluffy, cuddleable, cute, and I think you guys will like it. and way more stuff. I'll have merch, lots of new merch coming out too. You hit diamond on comp, did you? No, I haven't been playing games. I touched grass. I've been touching grass. I've been working on PC. I played like Overwatch maybe twice. You play Val? I used to. I don't know. But I used to. I play Overwatch mainly, but I might dip my toes into League of Legends again. Valorant, I'm not sure. Maybe. Maybe. Finish Jump King. Nah! You know, chat, have you seen that new jump game out? Only Up or something like that? That... I've seen every streamer play that game. Only Up? Mm-hmm. Chat, you won't make me play that, right? You... I don't have to play that, right? Do a speedrun? It's a fun game. It looks... You know what? Some of you guys' definition of fun is more like soul-crushing. How about getting over it? No, I'm not playing that again. You can't make me. I don't wanna. I hate that game. I'm sure you'd have so much fun. I love torture. You guys just love watching me play soul-sucking torture horror games. Ghosts of Tsushima? Did I say that right? Elden Ring? No. Maybe. I'm gonna be streaming full-time now, so I have a lot more time to try new games, new stuff. Basically anything I want to do on the stream. This is a debut stream? Yes, it is. Hello, this is my new model. It's been almost 2 hours, so if you just came in, hi, my name is FoxPlushy. This is my new model. I showed it off and all, but yeah. How about a bet? $1 million. It's my asking price. Congrats on your debut. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Still even 7 months. The alerts are really backed up, so yeah. Hello, Small Fox. Glad to see you back on streams. Missed you dearly. My heart congrats you for the new debut and beginning your model is astonishing. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so glad everyone likes the model. I mean, did I forget anything with the model? No. I don't think I did. Probably, but I don't think I did. Nice room, thank you. This is my ASMR room that I'll be using for ASMR purposes. And in the background, right there, you can see some fan art of my new model. Blow out our ears. When I scream, it's quiet anyway. I've been studying VTubers and how to become one. You're the first one I studied. Wow, I'm flattered. I don't know if I was one of the first VTubers. Definitely not. Most VTubers came out during COVID time, like the main ones. But I would say, at least on TikTok, one of the ones that went down in history. Streaming blew up then? That's because everyone was home. And we were like, what should we do? I have way too much time on my hands. Oh, I'm gonna become an anime girl on the internet. Yes. I don't remember. It was so long ago. Have a great day. I'm gonna go back to planting corn. See you later. Only 1,000 more seeds to plant. Good luck, Gage. My farm chatter. Good luck. I still remember the no boobs audio. Oh yeah. I think my most popular TikTok clip or TikTok in general was one No, 10 million views. And it's weird to think that 10 million people have seen me. Especially, it was kind of cringy too. You post YouTube shorts? I will be posting more YouTube shorts now, soon. Insta, YouTube, and TikTok. I found you through Cooksy. Cooksy too! Cooksy. Cooksy. A lot of people have helped me grow and all that. Like TikTok. All the people on TikTok coming over here and being like, Booba? Booba, please show Booba, Fox girl, please. And then also like clippers like Cooksy posting me on YouTube. Crazy. And also lovely streamers. Like the ones that rated today, especially Nero-sama that helped me out. What's your favorite movie of all time? Totoro. I like Totoro. Onion Booba. Onion Booba! The OGs know what Onion Booba means. I'm not here for Booba, I'm here for the big tails. Oh! Here. There you go, there's my tail. I don't put my tail up that much because it gets in the way. I want to show off the cool art. Here, I'll show off my starting soon screen. BRB and ending. No, I'll just do BRB because I don't want you guys to freak out that my stream's ending. But yeah, this is some of the new art that's gonna be animated soon. And more of the fan art. Do you still have multiple tails? Nope, I only have one tail on this model. All of my energy went into my thighs and my booba. So I don't have any tails. Here's the starting soon screen, and then we have BRB art. All of this will be animated. Shoot. I have a lot of new arts here and also coming up of this new model. And the DVD logo! Yeah! I know you guys love it. Yeah! Rice Farmer! Thank you! Thank you for subbing. For 6 months, thank you. Oh wait, Rice Farmer got gifted a sub that he... Oh, a 6 month. Okay, that's really confusing. But thank you guys. Congrats on your debut. Thank you. Thank you. It did not hit the corner. It doesn't hit the corner sometimes. All right, really quickly. Stream is not ending. Okay, but look at the cute art in the background. It is very cute. Alright, let's go back before anyone thinks I'm leaving forever. I love this art, it's so great! I got this art courtesy of my patrons that help me out every month and give me money so I can get cute art. That's the ending stream one? It'll change probably over time, but for now, yeah. Yeah, Piggy! Thank you for the raid, Piggy! Thank you! It'll be late. Very late, but thank you for the raid, Piggy. Did I miss anything? No, Default. I totally didn't do my whole debut stream. Everything looks so good. Thank you! Thank you. I'm gonna be probably posting on that big screen right there. If anyone in chat or watching wants to do fan art, I'll probably have it in the background of my streams. I don't know if I'll put the @ sign because I have to put that manually on each of the art, but maybe I'll have fan art on that screen though. What's the text in the middle of the screen? What? That's just fan art. Fan art. I love the little transparent phone. Thank you. Oh, let me show you guys. For people that just came into stream or after I showed this, I have keyboard, and it moves. It moves. This is me actually moving my mouse. This is me gaming. I'll be using this a lot. But yeah, this is really cool. And also the keys, when I press WASD, CV, shift, control, you know, all of that, caps lock, whatever. When I press them, it actually does press, but it's not working right now, so it'll fix itself later. Yo, holy shit! Thank you, Lo-Fi. Oh, thank you for the 25 gifted subs. Thank you, Mega Chat. Thank you so much, Lo-Fi. Let me recite the music. Thank you. Thank you, 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 thank you. Holy moly. Lo-Fi spending his paycheck on me. If you got a subby, make sure to say thank you. From anyone, and give the subbies. I hope you guys like the new emotes. How are you, Foxy? I'm good. I'm still scared because it's a debut stream. But I'm okay. Is the credits updated? Yes. But I'm missing a few things, such as my designer and some art. But I'll be sure to add that soon. A lot of the art that you see here today is gonna be reposted on Twitter, so make sure to follow me on Twitter and my socials. 1 hour until movie time, Foxy. I will actually be... Whenever I end this debut stream, I guess whenever I want to, I'll be starting movie right after, so... If you want to stick around, we'll be doing a movie night with the new movie Nilma? Yeah, Nilma. It just came out yesterday, and it's apparently really, really good, so... I'll be streaming it and crying. I love the booba window. Fun fact, I also have a booba window on my back. But it's not for booba, it's for my back. It's a little opening. My design, if you didn't see. Is it gonna be in the Discord? By the way, chat, our Discord has 30k plus members. God damn. Literally, that's just 30,000 people in my Discord. It just keeps getting, like, bigger. So yeah, lovely place, lots of emotes. The new emotes on Twitch are also on Discord. Show proof, turn around. I will eat you. Mass. Show proof, turn around. Are you making fun of me not being able to turn around? Thank you, Oniban. Thank you for the 9 months subby. Missed you, Foxy. I missed you too. Thank you, Red Play Game, for the subby. Lil Pasta for gifting out 5 subbies. And 1 anonymous gifter. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate those. This model of ankles? No. Ta-da! I have heels on with protection from ankle likers. So all the little ankle biters in my chat, nope. No ankles for you. No, no, no. Thighs? There's your thighs, chat. Why? Because of you, Diva. Ankle biter. Squish. We do have a thigh emote, which is my favorite. Foxy chat, I miss you. Let me give you a kiss. Mwah! Mwah! I give everyone in chat a kiss. Mwah! 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 Can you also advertise the what? I don't know what you're talking about. I did say we're gonna have a fluffy surprise in like a week. Still chill, thank you so much for gifting 5 subs. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, go make sure to follow my Twitter because I'm gonna be posting a lot of stuff, a lot of merch, a lot of art, and a lot of content that I've been saving up for like 2 months. Good to see you back, fast. The new model looks amazing. Thank you. Body pillows? Not a new body pillow, but we do have 2 of those. I see. Oh shit. Click! Thank you for the 5,000 videos. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Cleric. Biddies for kisses. Let me get close. Kisses. Here, should I give a little Shine Fox a kiss? Kisses. That's so cute. I can lick him too. Don't call Peter. Ah. Hey, I have my tongue accidentally stuck out. He's sleepy, don't worry. He doesn't even have any brain cells. He don't have a care in the world. He's like a jellyfish. Still moves around, but like no brain. You're finally back, sir. I was like, Toshitsukitos. Hi. Good to see you here. You just like me? I went to the aquarium over my 2-month break and I saw jellyfish and I was like, damn, that's crazy. They don't even have brains and they still move. I want to be a jellyfish. That's a dope ass design. Thank you. Do you guys like this design better than the old Foxy design? The old one was the first, and for literally like 2 years I used that design. They're also immortal? Damn. Yes? I'm glad you guys do. It's definitely more pink. Cutesy. I like both. Both is great. This one's amazing. I originally was actually gonna have 2 models. I was gonna get this model and my old model redone with this outfit. But I decided I just wanted to do this model and then we'll see like later on. The face and tummy. Should I have a tummy dump routine? Tummy. Stummy. Like my stummy chat. Not all jellyfish are immortal, that's incorrect. Just sing. If I want to be a immortal jellyfish. I like this model, but the others feel nostalgic. Yeah, of course. I've gone through 1 PNG and now have 3 models. Main models. I also have like... Oh my god, you know, I have another surprise. I have a lot of surprises coming up, chat. I want to do VR streams once I get my VR set up here. I almost had my tracker fall on my head while I was sleeping, which was terrifying. It's like a block. It's like a 1 pound block that almost fell on my head. Wonka. Why was it above your head? Because the trackers need to go like in the ceiling. So it almost became flat sand. Like, it was scary. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was like, what the fuck was that? I was scared. Base stations, yeah. Tracker base station thingies. I have full body tracking, so the VR streams will be puggers if everything works out well. Hey, you know what? That's the first mommy I've seen in chat. Crazy. Probably was before, but this is the first one I saw right now. It's 105 degrees and it's gonna be 110. Ew, nasty. It's actually really hot here too. I'm sweating because I'm nervous. My apartment's cold, but oh my god. I was so nervous to start the stream chat. I was like, I felt like I was gonna pass out. I'm still a little lightheaded, honestly. Thank you for the follows. Thank you. I just came back and you have double the viewers. We had a raid. You're doing amazing. Default, yeah, it's you. I mean, oops. YOU apostrophe RE. There we go. Is that what it's called? Apostrophe. Hi, Game Master. Hello, hello, hello. Not gonna lie, the thing I was waiting for, Foxy stream. Why? If anyone in chat uses "you're wrong," I will correct you. You better be using your yours right. Right? There's a difference between your and you are. Let me misspell. No! No, you won't. Thank you, French Toast. Thank you for the 30 biddies. Foxy, while you were gone, it felt like forever. I got a girlfriend? Oh my god! Congratulations, French Toast! My man's got a girlfriend, what the hell? I leave for 2 months? Are you cheating on me? Oh shit. This Piggy's raid was like an hour ago. Lil Pasta, thank you for gifting a sub to Maru. And thank you, Ray. Thank you for the 7 months. Hi. Hi. You are. You leave for 2 months and we actually touched grass. Crazy. I touched grass. Chat touched grass. A revolution. Maybe I should leave for 2 months more often. No, just kidding. I don't want to do that. It was weird. It was really weird not streaming. I'm gonna have like vacations sometimes still, but like 2 months. Oh, it felt so weird. Still feels weird. Chat reflects the streamers, so we all can't spell. Guys, I'm gonna make your rent. I don't like this. I was a good English student, so. Are you gonna do a box opening soon? What am I opening? Pokemon cards? Wanna sub so badly, but I'm poor. No, you don't need to sub. Please don't feel like you need to sub, or else I will eat you alive. Subbing is optional. Why do you sound familiar? I was actually a Hall Life member. I don't know. Maybe you heard me on TikTok. Perhaps. Hi Grievous, good to see you. Hello. No way, I'm actually a fucking old Hololive VTuber. Crazy. I came back to life. Foxy's famous. No. Famous. Famous. Hi Orion. Hello. Let me speed run some thank yous really quick. Cause at the beginning of stream and before stream you guys started subbing like crazy. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Lo-Fi, for gifting. Thank you, Lo-Fi, for gifting 50 subs. Cleric for gifting 30 subs. Vera for 15 subs. Ella for 10 subbies gifted. Lil Imposter 8 subs. Nowhere Art 5 subs. Adion 5 subs. Piggy 5 subs. Stilch 5 subs. BDS 4 subs. Oh my god, there's so many. Fernicus, thank you for the subby. Sky Dragon, Baron, Sins, Ira, Headhunter, Trance. I'm really bad at reading names. Yeah, games on your phone? No. Just chat. I thought you were in Nijisanji. No! Oh lord. I'd be scared. I almost signed up for Visojo, but I was accidentally a day late for the applications. Maybe in another alternate Spider-Verse timeline, I'm actually in Visojo. Crazy. But wouldn't that mean I'd have to get a new model and everything? The alternate timeline. No games on phone? Alright, okay, hold on. I got Flappy Bird. Is that... Do you like that? Hi, Gingy Boy! Thank you! I'm glad you like the model. Spider-Verse, that stupid sound. I'm glad you didn't. I like this community. There's ups and downs of being indie VTuber and not indie VTuber. Am I indie? I'm actually a part of Mythic right now. I'm indie. Yeah, I'm indie. The new model looks great. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. I'll be saying a lot of this model. I'll be sharing basically like every day. Let me read off some more subbies. Thank you, Lil Impasta, for gifting a subby. Elraf. Red Plate Games, thank you for the subby. Icebox, thank you for the subby. Criton Bull, thank you for the subby. Paladon. Vera. H2F. Fosbly. Z-Master. Robin Food. BDS. Dex. Darkness. Joe Wash. DJ Kappa. I think I read some of the other ones. Hi Teleport, welcome to the stream. Hello. Welcome to my debut stream. How the Fox doing? What the Fox doing? I'm doing a debut. This is my debut, but this is like the chill end-ish time of the debut where I just talk with chat. I did my professional stuff the first 2 hours of stream. Now I'm die. What are your plans concerning next live streams? I'm gonna be playing Overwatch probably tomorrow and just chatting. And also going over a lot of stuff on Twitter, like new art and fan art and all that. But I do want to do more ASMR streams, more gamer streams. I'm gonna be streaming tomorrow and the whole week, basically. No break days. No break days. Full-time streamer. Yeah, thank you for the raid. Leah Kitties, thank you so much for the raid. My alerts are so backed up. Hello, cutie. Hi. Hello. I absolutely love your model. The colors. It reminds me of Ari. Hi, you made it to like mid debut stream. Hello. Such a beautiful new model. Thank you. Here, I'll back up a little bit. I'll show off the thighs. Hi everyone. Hello. I'm like, my voice is starting to slowly die because I was so nervous. I'm gonna need to hibernate early tonight so I can stream tomorrow morning. So thick. Thank you. I've been working out a lot during my hiatus. Your ASMR is fire? Yo, thank you. That's so sweet. My other ASMR streams have just been like practice, so I've just been practicing with those. The little bulls are adorable. Thank you. Let me show you guys around. Here's my just chatting screen. Animated and done by Sigma. Poggers. If you want to see my model parents, do exclamation point parents. Thank you, Piggy. Thank you for the 20 months. Thank you. Thank you for the Sylvie. The fox in your collar looks like my dog sleeping. He's sleepy. Kind of does look like a dog. What a dog doing? Here's the stinger. And over here we have the ASMR / chill room. This is where I'll be doing all the ASMR streams. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? I actually have a nighttime version of this room. So when I want to do nighttime ASMR streams, we'll go here. Some things don't match, like this guy. He should be not bright, but it's okay. And I'll also be having my model dark too, with my eyes glowing and such. We got night mode. But yeah, this is the ASMR room. I have ASMR toggles for future ASMR streams if you want to stop by. I don't know, I'm probably doing after tomorrow. The fan art wall, I just love that idea so much. Yeah! I like it too. This is like the pre-debut fan art that I got. Very cute. All of their ads are... their Twitter ads are on there too. This little Shine Fox skincare routine makes him glow, bro. He's absolutely shining. He's too cute. Yes, I got brush toggles, even 2 brushes, and I have lickies. So I can lick my mic. Thank you for the follows. Thank you. Welcome in. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Just so everyone knows, we're gonna be having Discord movie night right after re-debut stream, which is this stream. So if you want to join the Discord, we'll be watching the new movie Neilma that just came out. Mwah. Mwah. I just was watching my GF draw you the whole evening yesterday. Oh, what the heck? That's so cute. The fan art that I got is literally the like cutest ever. I mean, it's just like... I woke up this morning after sleeping like doo-doo. I slept really bad. Like, I worked all day yesterday and then I went to sleep and I felt like I just got hit by a truck when I woke up. So, seeing all the fan art that I got when I woke up, oh, it was so nice. But yeah, ASMR room, pretty cool. Expect more fan art, Foxy? I'm excited. My debut was kind of rushed, so I feel like some artists didn't get enough time to finish their arts. Yippee! What about NSFW ASMR? I will have NSFW ASMR out on the 8th, so I'll make sure to get in the Discord and Twitter. Follow on Twitter so you'll know. Mary Lee, thank you for the Prime show. Hope you're feeling better. I'm feeling so much better. I mean, right now I kind of feel like falling over and keeling over on the floor. A little lightheaded, a little scared, sweaty. Debut stuff, but in general, I'm much happier now that I have my own place and all the time to make content. Sounds reasonable. I don't know a single VTuber that doesn't keel over after they debut stream. I didn't finish, but happy re-debut. Thank you, Ani! Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's okay, don't worry about finishing the fan art right now. Take your time. One final week of waiting. Chat, you got this. One more week and then you get your degenerate NSFW ASMR. We're happy you're back. So happy to be back. I missed you guys. I missed chatting. It was lonely, chat. It was so lonely being without you guys. I had to go outside. I had to go to Costco. I had to buy groceries. Parasocial for chat. Chat's my social. That's where I get my social skills. The horror. I literally went to like a little apartment gathering and I stole food and I ran. It was scary. Socializing is scary. You know what socializing feels like? A Sims character. I went to a gathering party and I literally felt like a Sims character. I stood up, I sat down, I ate. I stared out the window when I walked out. Ooh. It's literally Sims character. I don't like socializing. I robbed a potluck and ran. I literally I took a bunch of pizza, chips, and I ran. Stood up, sat down, repeat cycle, chuckled when someone made a joke. Congrats on your debut, thank you! Thank you. I see a lot of new people in chat. I hope you guys stay around and come see my streams and content and all that. Poor Fox, you did your best. It was tough. Not to mention other people's combos are incoherent like Sims characters. Exactly! That's what it sounds like. Suki, hi, thank you. Thank you for the congrats. God, I'm like, when we go watch the movie after debut ends, I'm gonna pass out, chat. Mwah, mwah. I'm not new here. I know you aren't these nuts. I remember you guys. I could be gone for like 5 months and I'd still remember you guys' names. It's embedded in my skull. Not a good thing. BDS, thank you for giving us so to Suki. Thank you. Take some rest. I will rest. I will rest when watching movie. I remember you guys. I remember you guys a lot. Like, it's stuck in my head forever. And ever. Let me take my phone out. See, it's nice to have my phone with chat on it, so then when I look this way, I'm looking at chat and not like into the void. I miss you guys. Mwah. Mwah. I miss you guys a lot. I'm surprised you still remember me. I don't know, when you're a streamer, names just get like... You just remember, I don't know. I remember Gingy Boy from very, very long time ago. Unless your name is like a bunch of letters. Ugh. Like letters and numbers. Also drink water, oh yeah. I was really hoping that I wouldn't just like pass out mid debut. Oh, maybe I should have. Then I would be on like VTuber news. VTuber passes out mid stream, mid debut stream. Cops called. All I ate yesterday was mac and cheese. The only thing in my system is mac and cheese. Oh, and that stale pizza slice. Free advertisement, exactly. False eye, false eye. I passed out on stream. False. Did you know that False interviewed me one time? It was really fun. I feel like VTubing is slowly becoming like famous people, and what famous people do, like when a famous person accidentally like breaks their arm just so they can, I don't know, get on the news or something. That was so long ago. What was it? I don't know. Maybe. Foxy Crab game when? Maybe this week. I'll be playing a lot of games. I'm kind of dizzy, chat. This is the debut. You guys scared me too much with all the raids and the love and the... It's a lot. Among Us? I don't want to play Among Us. Drink water! I have the water! Go rest, Foxy. It might be that time. Do you guys think it's time to watch movie? Is it time? Don't push yourself too hard. You did an amazing job today. Bro, debuting is like 70% of the work. And then relaxing and then chilling with chat after and streaming. Oh, also, I'm gonna say one thing. For artists in chat, I'm gonna be planning an art contest soon for my new model and design, so... And it will have cash prizes, so like... Maybe a pool of... 2k for art contests? Or 1.5k? So, oh. It's late. But yeah. How much? Yeah, 1.5k. Not, but it'll be like, you know, separated for 3-4 spots, you know? So, if that'll be happening in the future. So if you want to start fan art now, I'm only telling you guys because you guys are here. So, the secret information. But if you did want to start now, the fan art that is on this screen over here, I will count that since like all new fan art, not commissioned but fan art, will be able to be in the contest. A little late, but imagine going to Costco. I said that like 10 minutes ago. Colony. How about a pool of pools? How about 100k art competition? Damn. That'd be crazy. It's like Mr. Beast type of thing. I should get Mr. Beast to notice me. Mr. Beast! Mr. Beast, come watch my stream! Mr. Beast! 3D is good. I have a plan in my mind. Yeah. 3D art, 2D art, all is good. Just art in general, not abstract. The zoom in. Hey, how else am I gonna get fucking Mr. Beast to watch my stuff? I saw a naked Mr. Beast on my Twitter. It was him and his gym gains, and I was like, sick, bro. Sick, broski. Notice me, senpai. Please. Notice me, Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast, this is my call-out video. My call-out stream. Please notice me and other VTubers. I think it'd be really cool. A lot of potential. Please, Mr. Beast. I was late because I was in the middle of something. Oh, I see you calling me. I hear a fine car in the background. Oh yeah. I'm trying to soundproof my window that I have because I chose to live on the side of a road instead of on the other side. I don't know why. I'm a little silly. I'm a little not smart, but I'll make it work for ASMR. Hopefully it's gonna be good quality, no background noise ASMR. Foxy, why? I'm sorry. I don't know. I chose the side with the most sunlight, and so I have like 24/7 cars. I live on a busy street 24/7. There's never not a car, so Foxgirl licks your ears while a V8 goes by. Foxgirl licks your ears while a homeless man screams about the revolution outside of window. I have a lot of ASMR ideas. Would you guys like to hear? Let me just pull it up. Foxgirl holds your hand while going to the bathroom. Foxgirl domestic abuse. Foxgirl studying online session. Foxgirl convinces you to stay around and help at the shrine. Slight and this is a W question mark. Foxgirl helps you get over your ex-girlfriend. I don't know what that means. I don't know. These are your guys' ideas, actually, that I wrote down. Thank you for the water. Wait, I like that one. I want that one. Wait, Foxgirl helps you get over your ex. Hey! Yeah, I don't know what that means. Is that bad or good? Maybe it's like a helpful. Foxgirl brings your stinky face into the shower. Foxgirl makes you take a shower because you stink like... Ugh. Damn, man. You stink like shit. Go shower. The ASMR, it's gonna be lovely. It's gonna be great. Foxgirl breaks into your house and pretends that she's Santa. I'm really excited for the domestic abuse one that I just get to beat up my microphone. What? Wait! You guys should expect this from me. I get to beat up my microphone. Don't worry. I do wholesome content too, okay? There will be wholesome ASMR. That's gonna be most of it. But we will also have our special ASMR. Do not break your microphone. I bought a new microphone for ASMR and this one's $2,000. So if I break it, ooh. It was worth it. Foxgirl forces you to put corn on pizza. Okay, you know what? Corn on pizza tastes absolutely delicious. Really scrumptious. Really scrumptious. 2K mic? My whole ASMR setup in total would probably be like 3K. I'm serious, chat, about this ASMR stuff. That's why I'm gonna be posting on YouTube a lot. I love corn on pizza. Corn on pizza is best. I'm serious. I just need to get a good ASMR editor. If you edit ASMR or know how to do that and you're good at it, hit me up on Twitter. minus 3K. I know it's a lot. It's a lot for ASMR, but I want to do it. It's worth it. I don't think about the cost and the gain. I just think about, do I want to do this? Yes. Okay, let's do it. Plus, I'm sure you guys will like it. Serious businesswoman. Business. Business. Alright. Is there anything else I should show off before we head off to watch a movie in the Discord? I was crazy once. Ankles? Thighs? Yeah, I don't have ankles. See, they're covered up. Let's go to this one. They locked me in a room. A room full of rats. Rubber. Steppies! Step, 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 step. Step, 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 step. Step, 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 step. Thighs. Thighs and tummy. Front view. Did you notice that my booba window is a fox? It's my fox logo. I had this on my jacket, and a lot of my stuff in general, you can see my fox logo on. Boob. Alright. Little close up on the face. My toggles. Horror game toggle. I didn't notice? Yeah. It's really cute. My designer did super well. Big pooples, but not with any tears. Just happy. A room with rubber rats. Alright, no crazy rubber rats. No. I wasn't looking. Can you show again? Oh yeah. No way looking. Alright, chat. I think it's time. My chat's going crazy now. Oh yeah. I'm the only one that's supposed to be going crazy. I just finished the debut. It was really scary. Debuts like take fucking like all of my energy ever. That was fun. You did great. Thank you. Did you guys like the debut? Was it good? Was it hopefully not as scuffy? I hope. I always try to not make it scuffy, but it scuffs. It scuffs. You did fantastic. We're all part of you. Thank you, chat. Do you plan on doing a song? I'm not good at singing, but maybe one day. I'm just not a good singer. My chat's proud of me. Thank you, chat. It was awesome. I'm glad. I'm so happy you guys like the model. I was nervous about the new design and if, you know, everyone would like it and stuff. My voice is like giving out too. I'm sweaty. My voice is giving out. I'm lightheaded. And I have tears in my eyes. I love you guys too. I love you guys. Mwah. Mwah. Thank you, Claire. Thank you for the 300 biddies. My alerts have finally caught up. Fuck. Everything was wonderful, Miss Foxy. Thank you for having us. Thank you. Thank you for coming to my TP stream. Thank you so much for all the gifted subbies, and the biddies, and all the follows. So many follows. There's a lot of you guys. My God. I'm so happy to have you guys here. Thank you, Yuda, for the 6 months subby, and Kizuna. Thank you for the prime sub. Never again. I won't leave for 2 months again. I think I will not. I'm not planning to. I'm not planning to leave again. Thank you guys for being here. I love you all. I'll be uploading this to YouTube, so hi YouTube and all the people watching on YouTube if you made it this far. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you. This debut has been my favorite debuts, probably. It's been chill and fun and nice. And this is when I go away. This is when I go away. But we're gonna go watch Discord movie. Thank you, Colony Slime. Thank you for the subby. We're gonna go watch Discord movie now, and I'm gonna stream it, and I'm gonna be there the whole time watching the movie too. So make sure to go check out the Discord. Let me actually pin the Discord. Actually, hey mods, can you pin a message with the Discord link, please? I'm going to my graduation party. Oh shit! Happy graduation! It already is? No, but like the main Discord link. Like Discord link. You can get the Discord from that link too. That link also has my socials like Twitch. Fucking Twitter, Insta, TikTok. Hey, did you know you can also follow me on Twitch with that link? Crazy. But yeah, alright, we're gonna go watch a movie. I'm gonna set up there, have that movie running. Thank you. What's your Twitch? My Twitch is FoxPlushy. Make sure to go check it out, okay guys? Yeah. Hey. Bye chat. Bye for like 2 seconds if you're gonna go watch this kind of movie with us, alright? I'll be streaming tomorrow, same time, like 3 hours ago from now. Yeah. Thank you, Rex, for the 7 months. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye, chat. Bye. I love you guys. Let me get closer. Thank you for coming to my debut and sticking around and watching it. Thank you. Bye, chat. Bye bye. And enjoy your nights and days until tomorrow, until I wreak havoc on it. If you're not gonna watch the movie, okay? Okay. Go join the Discord. Bye, chat. Fuck, I forgot I was on the screen.
So let me say this.
Alright, bye,
Forest
chat.
signing off.
Bye, chat. Join Discord.
Ooh.